My friends, get ready, brace your minds for what's about to be put on the table. What I'm going to show today is not a conspiracy theory, it's not science fiction, and it's definitely not what mainstream media is discussing on the news. We are going to open the black box of the biggest and most frightening military power shift in modern history. The first punch you need to take is this: 900,000 men. That's the exact brutal number. And it's a mathematical figure that at this very moment is keeping the top command of the Chinese Communist Party in Beijing awake at night. We're not talking about some far-off future projection. We're talking about the machinery of the end of the world. We're talking about OPLAN 5077. Today, I'm going to show you with leaked technical data, documents, and surgical precision how the United States of America plans to simply double the size of its command in the Pacific in a tiny and suffocating window of just 90 days. We are going to dissect together what's between the lines of the confidential plan, which details the massive deployment of nearly 1 million soldiers, thousands of tanks, entire fleets of aircraft carriers, and swarms of maritime attack drones, with a single and non-negotiable tactical objective: to prevent the island of Taiwan from falling into the hands of Xi Jinping. Luciano Rousseff, who won't talk about this on Domingo, but the war of the future already has its script written. And American logistics is the art of war that China is desperately trying to sabotage even before the first shot is fired. And that military mission in the Persian Gulf against Iran was a big rehearsal. Now pay attention. The timer for Operational Plan 5077 doesn't start on the day the first missile crosses the Taiwan Strait. The military doomsday clock starts ticking exactly 2 months before the Chinese invasion. The trigger is pulled at the exact millisecond when the formidable network of American satellite intelligence detects the movement of China's massive armored divisions mobilizing on the continent. When thousands of People's Liberation Army troops begin to position themselves on beaches throughout the region, facing Taiwan, forming what, from space, will appear to be the largest concentration of steel and flesh in history. In the event of an amphibious assault, the United States Pacific Command, PACOM, based in Hawaii, presses the red button. The signs of a Chinese invasion are massive, they're heavy, and they will be painfully clear long before the carnage begins. And this is where the so-called ADVON comes in, the advanced echelon, the tip of the American spear. The first to smell blood. But before I tell you all the details, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and leave your like on the video, because it takes a lot of work to bring this to you, my friends. PACOM immediately dispatches 12,000 Marines specialized in combat weapons from the 3rd Marine Expeditionary Force, who are already strategically based in Okinawa. They are the closest reinforcements and serve simultaneously as bait and shield. These men carry out their part of the plan with chilling composure and begin moving to the first island chain 2 months before the shooting starts. In a tight deadline of just 3 weeks, these Marines carry all their survival and combat gear and reach isolated bases in the Batanes Islands. In the Philippines, on the islands of Ishigaki and Miyako in Japan, that's where the lethal arsenal, the massive pre-positioned ammunition stockpiles, and the camouflaged offensive positions are already waiting for them. Look at the sophistication of the strategy the Americans have devised. The 3rd Marine Division mobilizes as an invisible reserve force, spreading small lethal autonomous units in what the Pentagon calls advanced expeditionary bases. The exclusive and suicidal job of these men is just that: to penetrate, hunt, and destroy China's naval operations using long-range missile systems like HIMARS and Nemesis. Elements of this force will already be at sea with the Amphibious Response Group, acting like a constant and poisonous needle in the neck of the Chinese army. The goal is to distract the PLA enough to relieve the overwhelming pressure on Taiwan and protect the brokers, the water for the entry of American reinforcements. These Marines are trained to be completely self-sufficient and isolated for 60 uninterrupted days, and that's the biggest challenge. The clock begins a relentless countdown. They have exactly 60 days of tactical oxygen, while the immense logistical machine of the United States races against time to reach them, and while China rushes to cut off their supplies. The big question that will determine whether there will be a third world war or not is whether the rest of the American armed forces can get there before the sun rises on the fateful day 61. These forward islands provide absolute fire control over Chinese naval transit routes, denying access and preventing the total blockade of Taiwan. Because if Taiwan is isolated, every passing day favors the crushing pressure promoted by Beijing. But make no mistake, these 12,000 men are not alone. The vast majority of this fierce initial response comes from the impressive contingent of 350,000 American military and civilians who are already pre-positioned in the Indo-Pacific region, in Japan, in Korea, in Alaska, and in Hawaii. Before the first shot is fired, the 7th Fleet of the Navy is already operating in the theater with 1,000 combat aircraft and 5 colossal aircraft carrier strike groups. The Special Operations Command, SEACOM, already has 1,200 Special Forces operators positioned, including troops from the 1st Special Forces Group infiltrated on the island of Taiwan itself. The Marine Corps has 86,000 men and 640 aircraft in the area. Pacific Air Forces have 46,000 airmen and more than 420 fighter jets. Meanwhile, the country's army, the United States in the region, maintains 100,000 personnel and 300 aircraft. But pay attention, all of this colossal mountain of firepower isn't even half of what the Pentagon needs to suffocate China. But far from there, the army has the bulk of its forces at the PACOM headquarters in Hawaii. Out of the 18,000 soldiers stationed there, about 7,000 are pure infantry shooters. They will fly from Chofan Barracks directly to the island of Luzon in the Philippines. The 25th Division will use mobile radars, HIMARS, and maritime drones to block the Luzon Strait. At the end of the 3rd month, 2 mobile brigade combat teams are inserted into the remote Philippine islands of Mavoles and Basco to share a joint radar picture of the battlefield. Simultaneously, in the continental United States, the elite paratroopers of the 82nd Airborne Division, who remain on maximum alert at Fort Bragg, load their infantry squad vehicles into the holds of the massive C-17 planes. Thanks to multiple in-flight refuelings, they land 5,000 men in the Philippines in an incredible 24 hours. It's the engineering of war operating at maximum speed, and that's why we need to understand the dark origin of Operation OPLAN 5077. This plan wasn't born yesterday. It's a ghost that haunts the halls of the Pentagon, existing in one form or another since the era of President Ronald Reagan during the Cold War. But it only became operational and brutal at the beginning of the 21st century. In 1999, Admiral Dennis Blair, former commander of the Pentagon Command, was the first to sit down, take pen and paper, and design direct military cooperation between the United States and Taiwan. In 2004, the feared Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, sank his claws into this project and added aggressive guidelines, creating the final draft. The world only learned about the existence of this logistical monster when the military journalist and former intelligence officer William Arkin leaked the document in the Washington Post in 2007. Arkin revealed that the United States will not just play defense. The plan includes naval and ground operations, information warfare, and most frightening of all, direct kinetic and non-kinetic attacks against strategic targets inside mainland China. The United States doesn't just plan to defend the island, they plan to decapitate Beijing's military infrastructure. But between plans on paper and the mud of the battlefield, there is an invisible and invincible enemy that the Pentagon calls the tyranny of distance. This is the real Achilles heel of OPLAN 5077. How do you feed, supply, and protect a battlefront that's located almost 9,000 kilometers from the American West Coast? Specialist Zachary Hoggus from the National Defense University laid out the reality. Modern weapons require highly complex maintenance equipment. And when you disperse your Marines across dozens of tiny islands, you turn logistics into a monumental nightmare. Each small occupied island becomes a black hole that swallows food, fuel, ammunition, medicine, and spare parts. And to overcome this tyranny of distance, the United States is deploying technologies that seem straight out of a science fiction movie. And the first of these is the Forge. And pay attention because I have some bonus intel coming up that will your mind and will explain everything that's happening and involves outer space. The army is quietly building a gigantic military warehouse of industrial 3D printers in Hawaii. By 2025, this unit would already be operating at the forefront of war. The Forge sends tactical containers to the front line alongside the infantry. If the spring of an AM-250 machine gun breaks in the middle of a firefight in the Philippines, they don't wait weeks for a ship coming from San Diego. They print the replacement part on the spot, saving time, thousands of dollars, and most importantly, avoiding a dangerous trip of almost 9,000 kilometers across the Pacific Ocean, which is infested with Chinese submarines. The Forge will print everything from fighter jet parts to thousands of FPV kamikaze attack drones right in the middle of the jungle. And the second solution to keep almost 1 million men alive on remote islands solves the energy problem. The O Army developed mini nuclear reactors exactly the size of a shipping container. These portable atomic plants will be landed on the beaches to generate infinite electricity for the radars and defense systems, putting American soldiers in the surreal situation of sleeping, hugging a nuclear reactor while under a rain of Chinese missiles. And if the sea is blocked, well, the supply will come from space. And that's the present. The Department of Defense has formed aggressive partnerships with Elon Musk's SpaceX. Did you imagine that? That these rockets from Elon Musk will be used for war? They are developing orbital rockets capable of being launched from the United States and delivering vital loads of almost 2,700 kilograms of military supplies, crossing the atmosphere to land anywhere on Earth, including the jungles of the Philippines, in 90 minutes or less. The logistics revolution is frightening, but while the army uses space and atomic energy, the real bottleneck is at sea. The gigantic responsibility of transporting hundreds of thousands of soldiers and heavy armored equipment falls to Transcom. China was so frightened by Transcom's efficiency that it literally copied the model, creating its own joint logistics support force. America's problem in the Pacific is that there is no European rail network or NATO structure. Everything depends on shipping. It takes exactly 2 months to load a single American military division from the United States. Transport the tanks by train to the coast, tie them onto ships, cross the ocean, unload them, and give the soldiers antibiotic injections so they don't die from tropical infections. And the Achilles heel goes by the name LMSR ship. They're monstrous cargo ships. And the problem? It takes 10 to 15 of these gigantic ships just to transport a single American armored division. They're giant, slow targets packed with thousands of soldiers and explosives sailing out of San Diego. That's why China created the contested logistics strategy. Xi Jinping's goal isn't to sink the ships in the middle of the Pacific. The goal is to make sure they never leave the port in the United States. But how, you ask me? Through cataclysmic cyber attacks. The Chinese operation called Salt Typhoon, massively tested in 2024, is exactly that. Beijing's military hackers invade and destroy American telecommunications networks. They shut down the power grids of critical infrastructure and completely lock the Crane software at both civilian and military ports in the United States. They delay mobilization by driving a digital dagger into the heart of American logistics, forcing the United States Cyber Command to fight an invisible world war on servers before a single soldier boards the ships. If the Americans manage to survive the hacker attacks and China's submarine fleet in the Pacific, we reach the 3rd month of conflict. The clock marks day 60. All pre-positioned elements are in open combat. The 7th Fleet operates at a safe distance, exchanging massive salvos of ballistic missiles with Beijing's destroyers. Meanwhile, the American nuclear-powered submarines, infinitely stealthier than the Chinese ones, hunt targets inside the Taiwan Strait. The Air Force bombs the mainland. The sky over the Pacific turns into a true uninterrupted air bridge. And if you looked at the flight radar that day, you would see dozens of colossal C-17 planes crossing the ocean daily, transporting bombs from California to Australia and Japan. At this moment, 30,000 Marines leave San Diego to reinforce the island. The 11th Airborne Division from Alaska sends another 12,000 men into the hell of the Philippines. The Army deploys its multi-domain task force, deploying the lethal Typhoon missile launchers. And entire battalions of Stryker medium armored vehicles take up coastal positions to shoot down missiles. To keep this machine running under heavy fire, the Army activated the Contested Logistics Multifunctional Team, focused on 4 fronts of pure intelligence: precision sustainment through artificial intelligence to predict when ammunition will run out, machine automation using road trucks and boats, robots to deliver cargo without killing drivers, advanced energy to stop relying on slow fuel convoys, and a drastic reduction in demand, forcing the system to be hyper-efficient. General Gavin Gartner, the logistics commander in the theater, summed it up. They're flooding Asia with supplies. Now, operating with a just-in-case mentality as a precaution because the corporate just-in-time mentality dies. The moment the first Chinese missile crosses the sky. Historically, in Iraq, the army took 158 days just to set up its logistics without taking any fire. In the Pacific, they won't have that time. And to close the time gaps at vital naval repair bases like Subic Bay, the United States activated Operation Patio. The United States will join the fierce network of submission and logistical cooperation with Australia, Japan, and the Philippines. Has static and territorial warfare died? What comes next in this chess game of giants is the greatest symphony of cyber and silicon destruction ever seen in the history of humanity. And as a military intelligence exercise for the elite who follow me to the end, I challenge you with your shielded mind to come down now. In the comments, write in bold capital letters the 2 keywords that define this dossier: the end of the world mechanism or Plan 5077. I repeat, the end of the world mechanism or Plan 77, one of the 2, right here. Show the network that our community sees the hidden gears of the global system. My friends, the verdict is harsh. The movement of nearly 1 million soldiers using space, nuclear power, and the sea on a suffocating 90-day timeline sends the darkest message of our generation. The United States of America is technically and financially willing to start World War III in order to not lose supremacy in the Pacific. And as the dust of history rises, the world holds its breath. My friends, the undeniable lesson we draw from this monumental military operation of 900,000 men is frighteningly clear. On the Pacific battlefield, a gigantic contingent without precise logistics and without a visible chain of command will be massacred by the opposing system. Bringing the brutal coldness of geopolitics to the immediate reality of your business, the rule of survival is exactly the same. Today, in your field of activity, the most valuable, scarce, and contested currency of power is not your client's money. The gold currency of the 21st century is people's attention. Have you noticed how exhausting it is to try to make the audience stop and absorb dense and serious content on social media? I know this very well because it's hard work to do this here for you. The false impression that the algorithm pushes on us is that only dancing, empty controversies, and shallow memes are able to go viral. That's a lie. I've thought exactly the same way before, and I know how much that crushes the motivation of technical professionals. However, 15 years ago, when I started my journey in the tough trenches of commercial radio and television, I understood a fundamental law. The real mechanism to generate magnetic and unquestionable authority in people's minds depends purely on the fusion of powerful content with a relentless retention strategy. Today, thousands of entrepreneurs and specialists have excellent products and want to be recognized, but they're losing ground because they still haven't understood that the game now is 100% about media. It's about capturing attention in the first few seconds and anchoring value. Take CIMED as an example. In order to triple its margins and revenue dramatically, a traditional pharmaceutical company understood that before selling medicine, it needed to act like a true mass media machine. And the plain, harsh reality is that your identity and the soul of your business can never be outsourced to just any agency. Look, the owner of Havan, yes, the old man from Havan showed up, beat his chest, and keeps opening store after store. One of the companies that made the most money in Brazil, and during a period of chaos, war, and crisis. Yes, my friends. The owner, the brilliant mind behind the project, needs to step out of the shadows. He needs to put himself out there on the front lines and shape the vision. The romantic era of recording videos any old way with your phone without any perceived authority and still managing to close deals is definitely over. Today, this digital space is brutal and demands absolute elite professionalism. Pay attention, the algorithm is not your enemy. It's just a mathematical tool that follows patterns. The goal is not to turn you into a run-of-the-mill internet influencer, but to forge your own magnetic communication ecosystem through fire and steel, making the machine actively work in your favor. This allows you to scale your margins, select the best clients, and open doors that were previously locked. The product your career needs right now is not a pre-recorded video course. It's your ultimate and practical transformation into a lethal authority. And it was to forge this directly in your project that I created an exclusive immersion. On the next July 12th, I will do this immersion in a 100% in-person format with no distractions. It will be us sitting face to face inside my studio with my professional team. In Curitiba on July 12th, it will be an intensely practical meeting where I will audit, guide, and personally direct you in building this method. But I need to be deadly cold with the math of space. We only have 10 seats, 10 physical seats available. The moment the 10th ID is confirmed, the steel door of the complex closes immediately and the opportunity is over. Well, the QR code is on your screen now and the secure link is in the video description and in the first pinned comment. If you prefer, type "I want" and I'll send you the link right away. Take control of your business and come learn with me. How did I reach 50 million views every month here on social media and earn in dollars with communication? Talking to you every day. And for you, elite strategist who insists on maintaining the level of quality even when it's time to clear your mind on the weekend. Don't waste any more valuable time scrolling through streaming catalogs looking for something worthwhile. Access our secondary channel today, focused exclusively on reviews and tips about series and movies, genuinely spot on. It's cinema of the highest intelligence without whining, heavy scripts, or zero culture, and without any woke stuff forced down your throat. The link is in the description, in the first pinned comment, and in the card that will appear on your screen. I'm even going to recommend to you an amazing war movie and a great series so you can understand how this world works. Click here and come be part of this community. Well, don't leave the video without subscribing. Turn on the notification bell. Turn on the notification bell and leave a like. You can also share it with all your friends. Now, read, blend your mind. I'm Shimon Oliver and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.